Another Bay Trail Confidential. I'm Rodney Paul, and really thrilled to have you tonight. We have a really special program planned for you. I hope you were enjoying the photos in the slideshow, all of which come from our guest, Jeff Daitsman, who we'll be meeting in just a minute. And that's a brand new thing for us to have all the photos from one guest. And it's been pretty extraordinary working with Jeff on this, and we'll be hearing about his amazing journey around the Bay Trail over the past year. But before that, I'm going to end the poll. I'm going to give you another 15 seconds to finish up the poll, and then I'll share the results with you. Should let Jeff and Ethel and Lee already know this. When you are a guest, you're not able to do the poll. Sorry about that. But it is fun to see where people are participating from. So I'm ending the poll and I'm going to share the results with you. And this is really nice to see. We're getting people from all over the Bay Area. That is kind of the goal of this program, is to, we're all connected by the Bay, and to bring people together from throughout the Bay Area is a great thing. I always ask what your favorite activity is. And I saw that in chat, the idea like, why do I have to choose? And maybe we'll see if we can get something a little more sophisticated next time, because we know many people are doing more than one thing, but looks like hiking and walking is the number one activity, followed by biking. We're going to be hearing from one of the great walkers of the Bay Trail today. And what are your thoughts on circumnavigating the Bay Trail? Doesn't sound like I said, I've already done it. Sorry for the typo there. Seems like no one in the audience has already done it. So Jeff, you are unique, but others are in the process of doing it, and still others are thinking about it. So I think Jeff is going to inspire you to consider doing that. I am going to, give me a second here. I got to get that poll out of the way of my screen. But I should mention, first of all, we are hosted by San Francisco City Guides, a nonprofit that's been around for 44 years now. And City Guides does a lot of in-person walking tours of San Francisco. But during the pandemic, they started hosting these programs on Zoom. We've been really happy to have them host us. And if you want to donate, or if you already donated, thank you. And if you want to, you can go to that link to make a donation, and it helps our nonprofit stay afloat. So we appreciate that. This is what we're going to be talking about tonight. So we're going to do some greetings, couple of Bay Trail updates. Then we're going to really spend the bulk of the program talking about the year of the ox and what Jeff did during that. Then we will talk about some South San Francisco secrets that Ethel and I uncovered. And then we'll have our after party where we have more of your questions and comments. We always start off the program by showing Bay Trail Cred, where people have been on the Bay Trail. And this is Jeff's Bay Trail Cred, and boy, it doesn't get any better than this. Jeff has pretty much been everywhere you can legally go on the Bay Trail. Like if you look at this little section here, this is a naval communications area that is illegal to trespass on. And so Jeff, that was a smart move not going through there. I think someday we will have, that's why it's like a dotted green line, we will have access to that. But very, very impressive. And we'll be talking about that in seeing some detail of Jeff's adventures. Ethel, how are you doing tonight?
I'm well, thanks.
And I know you have added some to your Bay Trail Cred, and you will be adding much more soon.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, because I'm energized and ready to go. And I have got a bunch of female friends that are walking with me now.
So good. So this is what we love, inspiring that sort of thing, or just inspiring you to go to other parts of the Bay to experience them. And then Lee, you've always had really good Bay Trail Cred. Are we gonna get you to some new spots soon?
I actually did go to a new spot a couple of weeks ago. I finally went to that new section of Bay Trail in Burlingame, right near the new Facebook campus that was built.
Oh, nice.
It's a great space.
Mm-hmm.
So that would be around here. Oh, I think I know what you mean. Is that like the old, what was once the drive-in theater?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. We might have to do a show on that. It's pretty cool area. Right across from the Coyote Point that we talked about a few shows ago. Right. And then my Bay Trail Cred has not I don't think, I think I hadn't shown, I went over, this is, by the way, my second time around. So it is, if it was comprehensive, it would be a little more impressive than this. It would be much more impressive than this, but not as impressive as Jeff's. And so we will get to that in a second. A couple Bay Trail updates. Wanted to mention that there's going to be ferry service to Treasure Island starting up soon. There's a little bit of controversy because there's going to be a fee to drive to Treasure Island now. I think there's going to be a $2.50 fee. And then that rises to $5 if it's during like commute hours. And I know there are some folks who feel that there was a commitment made not to have a fee. So if anybody has thoughts on that, you can put your thoughts in chat. The other update I'll just mention is I'm continuing to do my Bay Trail Taqueria challenge, and I kind of threw that out as a contest idea and didn't get a lot of entries. So I guess I'm just going to be doing this on my own. But my goal is to visit at least 100 taquerias within a mile of the Bay Trail. I went to another one today. So, Jeff, you will, I don't think I can touch what you've done, but I'm going to kind of set my own record for Bay Trail taquerias.
So I have to jump in there and tell you that I did, with the ladies that I'm walking with, we did a taco restaurant, 5 tacos and beers over by the Bulb. Really good.
You'll have to tell me where that is. You tell me where that is. I'll check it out. It's on Solano.
Solano Avenue.
There are some good taquerias on Solano. Some of them are not within a mile of the Bay Trail. I'm kind of thinking of almost expanding my criteria. This is like the Albany part of Solano. Right. So let's get into this year of the Ox Challenge. Jeff, how are you doing tonight? You're muted, by the way. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm doing pretty good. Yeah.
So you've been busy for the past year, and this is a show. We're going to just go through all the Bay Trail map cards. So you took the Bay Trail maps, which you downloaded and printed out from the internet. And by the way, later on in the show, we're going to be talking about maybe a new way for Jeff to experience the maps. But we're going to go through these quickly because we're going to go back to them. Jeff marked up each different color is a different day's hike. Jeff, how many days and how many miles did you cover on the Bay Trail over your year?
I spent 122 days on the trail, 550.9 miles is what my Fitbit measured my distance, having traveled of the trail. That's not including the distance getting back to my starting point, which would add another, 400 miles or something.
So it was really like 900 plus miles of hiking on the Bay Trail. And, we say the Bay Trail is 500 miles when it will be completed. And you went to a lot of the sections, like we're looking at this right here. This dotted line is Bay Trail that has not yet been completed. And so you did that. This dotted line is, of course, the Bay Bridge, which you did not do. And
there's some areas I just would not.
You'd be on like the evening news if you did that, and we wouldn't want that for you. So Jeff inspired me to try something that, we use PowerPoint for this program, and I'm going to skip ahead to it. We're going to come back to some of these maps. So just giving you a sense of, these places he went. But because you went to pretty much every area and you have photographs from pretty much every area. Oh, and I'm sorry, we need to talk about this for a second. You just did such a great job of documenting your year, and then you created this calendar with some of your photographs in it. So I love this. And then this is like each of these this year's 2022 calendar, but this represents the day in 2021 that you that you hiked, and what the best photograph from that place. Is that right, Jeff?
Yeah. So there's 2 things that I did with all the photographs that I made. One, and this calendar only has what I did through December, because I started this at the beginning of the Lunar New Year in February last year, and I ended it just before the Lunar New Year this year. So it went into January that I was doing it. So the calendar only has stuff that I did in 2021 before December. But then I also made a YouTube slideshow to the tune of the song 500 Miles by the Proclaimers. And that, that has 2 pictures, 1 to 2 pictures from each day. The calendar has 1 picture from each day. And then I'd say probably a little more than half of the days I included a second picture for that slideshow.
Yeah, and we're going to link to that, the 500 miles slideshow that you have. That there will be a link to that from our webpage. So people, it's really fun. Definitely check that out. And then just look at like these are just such nice photographs of our beautiful bay and our Bay Trail. So this is what Jeff inspired me to do is I realized, each of these photographs are tied to one of the Bay Trail maps. And there's 25 maps of the Bay Trail, starting in San Francisco with 1 and 2. Well, I used PowerPoint and I was able to make all these numbers clickable. So we can start talking to Jeff about particular areas that he went. And we can just I'm going to talk to him about the North Bay, which is always a challenge going around the Bay. It's always the hardest part because much of the Bay Trail isn't completed there. But before I ask you about that, Jeff, let me just ask you, what inspired you to do this year-long trek around the Bay?
Well, I love hiking. I've always loved hiking. Since I was a kid, my parents would take me on road trips and we'd go to some park, Yellowstone or the Black Hills or Yosemite or, just all over the country. It's something that's just a part of me. And so, one thing that I was doing all the time is I would go and just hike the trails in my neighborhood when I come home from work, before I settle in for the day, I just go for a walk in the neighborhood. I would do the same thing around where I work. I'd walk the trails around there, and I got to know the trails in Berkeley really well and the trails in Bay Point really well. And I'm like, I want some new trails. And so I decided, well, let's see the whole Bay Trail. And so, at the, Year of the Ox, and I'm going to honor the Ox's endurance by traveling the entire Bay Trail by foot.
So if it had been, so for the Year of the Tiger, you would have done something different.
I don't know.
Major consumption or something. Let's go back to this this map. And the cool thing is we can go back to this. So one of the things you did was you walked on parts of Highway 37. And so what was that like? Because I considered biking it and decided there was no way I was going to do that.
Yeah, I was. So I'm going to take over the
yeah, go ahead.
If it will let me.
Let me hold on. I'll give it to you. This is another cool thing that we've experimented with that Jeff can control the slides.
Right. So this bit here, this stretch here, it goes. He says it says C map 17. It goes down to maps 17 and 18, crosses over all 3 of those maps. That stretch was the first stretch of Highway 37 that I did. I initially started on the east side of the bay, and I worked my way north until I got to the point that connects to here. And I'm like, I'm going to put that off. And I went around to the other side until I finally, came around to here, and I'm like, okay, well, it's time to do it. And I was really nervous about it. So what I did is I had my roommate drop me off. And then I did this bit, and I told them to meet me here at Skaggs Island Road. And then, I got there and I went a little bit further up to there, and then, hopped in the car and we went home. That was the only real long stretch. This stretch here is really short, and this is even shorter. so most of the time I wasn't actually on Highway 37 because it veers off of the road for a bit. But the part that I was on 37, it was not as scary as I was expecting it to be. It has a really wide shoulder, and it turned out that like I was nervous about going there when there was traffic, but I think I feel safer going on there when there's a lot of traffic because the cars are moving slower.
Okay, that's interesting. Look for traffic.
Yeah, that was like I realized that because I did them at different times of day, and I was like, it's nice to see that the cars are and like when I was doing this yellow bit, the first part of it was heavy traffic, and then it let up, and I was like, the cars were zooming by me. The cars zooming by wasn't so bad. It was the trucks zooming by that made me nervous. But like I said, it had a wide enough shoulder that I did not feel like I was actually in danger at any point. Now, some of these bridges are really narrow, and that was a little, like this little stretch here, I was like, I'm just running across that bridge. I'm not taking my time to take any pictures over this water. I was like, this looks pretty. I'd like to get a picture looking out over here, but I'm not stopping on that bridge. And that was some of what I was, I loved taking pictures. Obviously, I took like 4,700 pictures. But there were parts where I'm like, a lot of Highway 37 was, I'm not going to stop and take a picture because I don't want to be taking my time on this particular stretch.
Yeah. So, I mean, I guess one thing I want to say to the audience is, it is a little different walking versus biking, because biking, you kind of have to be on the pavement. And I strongly recommend against hiking or biking on 37. And then, walking, I don't think would be for everybody either, but you clearly were able to do it. And, these are really beautiful sections through here that you got to, this here in particular, the Tubbs Island stretch is really, very few people get there, and it's really nice.
Yeah, it was.
So what were some of the biggest surprises for you of this experience? Let's go back to our map.
Well, let's see. So there were a few things that, when I started out, I didn't know what to expect. I was just like, I'm going to see lots of beautiful trails. But I knew there were lots of trails. One thing that I didn't realize is just how much of it is, there is paved, for one. I was expecting a lot more dirt trails. But also, just some of the stuff that the trail goes by, like there's a lot more airports in the Bay Area than I realized.
Yeah.
And I'm discovering things like I'm walking right next to a fence that says property of National Aeronautics and Space Administration. I'm like, oh, okay, there's a NASA building right here.
It would have been like down here, right?
Yeah, it was like here, I'm gonna let's see.
Moffett Field.
What's that?
It was probably Moffett Field down there, Mountain View.
Yeah,
like around...
that looks about right. Yeah, it was on the orange stretch. I remember because it was a really long.
Oh, here it is. NASA Ames.
Yeah. Oh, there it is. Yeah.
And that's a view of that area that, no one, if you have to be on foot or on a bike to see this, with a car, you can't get out here. You're like right kind of out in the bay looking into into Moffett Field.
Yeah. And I'm going to just take over for a sec here. Cause like this, all of this here, there is like from this point, I think to this point, there is no other way out. And so, you're just walking on this side and you've got the view of the Don Edwards San Francisco Bay Wildlife Refuge. on that side, and then you've got like NASA and Moffett Field and that stuff on this side. But there's like, one of the reasons that sticks out in my mind so much is because it was a long stretch. It was like I had to be a long stretch because there's just nowhere I could turn off and like park and come back the next day.
So how many miles do you think that was?
I can look. Let's see.
That's right. You said you have a really good log. You did a really great job of documenting everything.
I have it. Let's see. We're looking at map 6.
We are on map 6. Yep.
Here we go.
I'll show some of your photographs.
Oh no, that's 9. This.
We have a pretty good surprise for Jeff a little later on. It's going to make finding his maps a little easier.
All right. So yeah, it was 7.83 miles that I did that day. With the round trip, a lot of times, I'm able to find shortcuts back, but there was no shortcut. So it was over 15 miles there and back. It was 15.
Was that your longest day?
No, there was a 16-mile day at one point. I don't remember when it was, where I was, but I do remember hitting 16. Let's see if I can find it in my spreadsheet. Oh,
and I'm seeing we've got some good questions. We will go to some of the questions in chat, which are good. The maps are these maps are all on the Bay Trail website, and we can probably throw that in the chat.
Okay, so I'm gonna go back in this and let's see. I think it said it was here. So that orange one, I believe, is the one that was 16 miles. Let me double check that because it looks like the purple more. But
purple looks pretty long.
Yeah, especially if they go out and back.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would have been the purple one was 7.34 miles of the trail, but it was 16.37 round trip. And part of that was because, go back. Because when I went down here and I Google Maps it, I'm like, oh, there's a shortcut through here, which if you'll notice right here, it says Ring Mountain. It's not so much of a shortcut.
It may be shorter in distance, but it's not easier, right?
Not at all.
That's a pretty good mountain too, I believe. It's pretty steep.
Yeah, it was a lot more than I was expecting at that point.
So you really know your Bay Area geography much better now, I would imagine.
I do, yeah. There's a lot of stuff that I just, I hadn't seen a lot of these areas, down stuff down by like San Jose, South Bay, it's really beautiful. The salt flats over there, just so gorgeous. And, it's something I'd never seen before. I've only lived in the Bay Area for about 6 years, and getting to see all of this stuff and realize that, I am an hour's drive away from any of this stuff, hour and a half at the most. And it's just like, I love it.
That's our mantra, Jeff, is like, you think the Bay Trail because the places near you, but there are so many other interesting, beautiful places not very far away if you explore a little further. And that's exactly what you did. Couple questions from chat. Gail wants to know, how many pairs of shoes did you go through?
3. So I had a pair of shoes that were my shoes before, And those were down in the process of these. I bought a new pair of shoes, and those ones are, they're still good. But at a certain point in my Bay Trail adventure, I was realizing that I was going to be hitting sector 1 over here right around the time of the Golden Gate Half Marathon. And so I timed it to actually do that. And this purple stretch here was the Golden Gate Half Marathon. And I got a new pair of shoes a month before that, so I could make sure I had some good running shoes for that. So I had the pair of shoes that got worn out from when I started this, and then I got, my new pair of shoes, and then I got a specifically pair of running shoes just for when I'm out running now.
So that answers the other question in chat, which is, did you walk the entire trip solo? Clearly not that day. But yeah, what was it? What were you generally going by yourself, or?
I was, yeah. So there were, my initial thing was, I'm gonna go out there, I'll do some of it by myself. I know a lot of people that like to go on hikes. Maybe I'll go with them sometimes. But after like my first 5 or 6 times out there, I was thinking, I really like the solitude of this, like being able to hear the sounds of the birds and the water, and not being distracted by having a conversation with someone or having headphones on. And, the only sounds are the sounds of nature, the sounds of my own breathing, and the sounds of my footsteps. And it was just so wonderful having that. And, it's not that everywhere, there's definitely parts of the Bay Trail where the sounds are not the sounds of nature. But I still really found that I enjoyed the solitude. So there were only, besides that, the half marathon day, there were only 3 days that I went out with someone else.
So that's how you said again, 121 days?
122.
122 days. Yeah, and that's interesting. You really didn't want to have headphones on in most places. I know for me, the one place I do like to have headphones is on the Richmond San Rafael Bridge, because that is a pretty noisy bridge.
I can see that. Yeah. It was not as noisy. I felt like the Dumbarton Bridge, the noise was worse than Richmond San Rafael.
Let's see, I'm trying to find the bridge. So yeah, that is true. Like Dumbarton Bridge, it's great for biking.
I think it's 6.
Is it 6? Yeah, there we go. It's great for biking in, I've never walked it. Actually, I've never walked either one, to be perfectly honest. Now, what advice would you have for, we have some people that have expressed an interest in circumnavigating the Bay. What advice would you have for them? What are some of the big lessons you learned?
While we've got this map open, I can show you one thing that I learned in this particular stretch is bring extra water. Be prepared for when I Google Maps this one, and I checked to see how far this distance was. I made a mistake and Google Maps to go across here rather than all the way up there. So I thought it was, sorry, am I not?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. So when I Google Maps this, and I cutting across here is what I told Google Maps without realizing it. So I thought I was only going to be going half the distance that I actually did. And I got to about here, and I'm like, shouldn't I be getting back to my starting point sometime soon? And I was so I had just this one little water bottle, and at that point I was like, I am taking tiny sips of this because I need it to last till I get all the way back to here where there was a water fountain. So after that, I was telling a friend about it, and I was like, I'm gonna go out and buy myself a Camelback, and she's just like, here, take mine, because she had just gotten a new one that she hadn't used yet, and so she gave it to me, and oh, I'm so grateful for that.
Yeah, water's been an issue for me, and I actually, when I circumnavigated the bay on my bike, I took photographs of every single water fountain, made a pretty nice slideshow out of it, if I don't say so myself. And I think I tabulated 76 water fountains that I went by, but there are plenty of places that don't have any. Pretty much any park that is a landfill will not have a water fountain for kind of obvious reasons.
Yeah, and this was like 10 miles almost without a water fountain. So
yeah,
like, there is a water fountain here, but it's here. And if you're over here and wanting some water,
it's a pretty beautiful stretch.
It is gorgeous.
And again, it's a place I don't think that many people get to. I think I've heard they're going to breach some of the levees out there. So you may have been fortunate. It may down the road not be possible to do what you did, depending on how that plays out. Question from Sarah: after the half marathon, did you take the bus back?
No. Well, so yes and no. So let me go back to that slide. All right. Wait, this is not what I thought I was clicking on.
You should be clicking on number 1, I think.
Yeah.
There we go.
There we go. Okay. So half marathon started here, went up to there, and ended back where it started. Now, I had a friend drop me off for that because I was like, I'm not going to try and park in downtown San Francisco when there's thousands of people there for a half marathon. So after I ran that, I ran the half marathon, I then walked back to the Embarcadero BART. And then I took that home to Bay Point, where I live an hour's walk from the Bay Point BART station.
So you walked that too, huh?
Yeah.
So you're someone, you really love walking, clearly. I'm just curious, there's a guy who did a film called The World Beneath Your Feet, his goal is to walk all the streets of New York City, which surprisingly, it's like 3,000 miles of streets. And he's been doing it for more than 10 years. Are you familiar with him?
I'm not.
Yeah, there are interesting people who love walking. And, I think it's just like a great way to get to know a place. That's what I think most people don't realize is, because it's the slowest way of going places, it's also the way you see the most of the places you experience.
Yeah, like, these pictures, I don't know if I would have been able to get some of these shots if I weren't on foot.
And tell me about the camera that you used. And, did you have some fancy single lens reflex camera?
It's, you can't really, there it is. That's my camera.
Looks like a smartphone.
Yeah, Galaxy S10. When I had to get a new phone, most recent time I had to get a new phone, I'm like, I want to get the one with the best camera that fits within my budget. And I got that. And that's it. Like, that's what I use to take all of these pictures, is just, a phone in my pocket or in my fanny pack. And like, I see something I like, and, I stop and pull it out and take a picture. Or, sometimes if I notice there's some wildlife coming up, I'll have it in my hand ready to, get a good angle on like the birds or whatever I see as they're in motion. But it was just my phone.
Yeah, you were saying that before. You were telling me, well, I got a phone with a really good camera, but I also think like the person taking the picture, you deserve a lot of credit. These are really extraordinary shots. You got a lot of very nice evening shots or uh, dusk kind of shots like this one. Although this would not be dusk. This is morning, right?
Sunrise.
This is sunrise. Yeah, I'm like, wait a second, we're looking to the east here.
Yeah. I tried to time it for sunrises and sunsets as much as I can. So, when I was on the east side of the bay, I was going for sunsets. When I was on, in the peninsula and in Marin, I was going for sunrises when I could. It's harder for me to get out there in the morning at sunrise because I have to be at work at a certain time.
Yeah, tell me about that. Like, what kind of work do you do, and how did you kind of fit this in around your work schedule?
I'm a preschool teacher. I work at an infant toddler center in the Berkeley Hills. I actually, when I started this, I was not working there yet. I was freelance babysitting, and also, lifeguarding at the YMCA. And then I was doing this, and then one of the families that I was working for, turns out they run an infant toddler center, and they hired me. And when that happened at the start of the new school year, like that made it so I had less free time to be able to go out on the trail. When I was, doing my freelance babysitting, I set my own schedule pretty much. I could tell people, these are the times I'm available, these times I'm not available. And I could plan, I want to go out on the trail, certain number of days a week. So I'm going to block off that many days. But once I'm working a full-time job, plus still working at the YMCA on weekends, plus still having a few of my freelance babysitting clients, I had a lot less time for going on the trail. And at a certain point, I was thinking I might not be able to finish by my goal time of the end of the year, the ox. And I just, the winter break came, and I got as much as I could before I went out of town to see family. I crammed in as much of the trail as I could. And then, when I came back, I was like every weekend, both, Saturday and Sunday, I was out there and just managed to finish on my goal date, or by my goal date.
Right at the end of the lunar year.
Yeah. So I think, let's see, when was it that I finished? My last day, January 23rd. And so it was about a week before the Lunar New Year.
We've got this picture up. This is the picture you have in your background, and you said this was like a real extraordinary event for you.
This is my favorite picture. It may not be like as bright or with as many colors as like the sunsets, but this one is just, these birds were like swarming around, and I could see them these swarms of going this way and that way and making these maneuvers, and then they came toward me and they flew over my head, and they were flying so low I could feel the wind from their wings on my head, and I felt like if I just reached up I'd be able to touch them. And it just it happened so fast, and I got this picture, and I was just wow. And then maybe 10-15 minutes later, I saw someone on their bike on the trail, and I was hey, did you see those birds? Do you know what kind of birds those were? And he's he had no idea what I was talking about, because he was 15 minutes away or on a bike. That's a good distance, and
So it's just this extraordinary thing happens on the trail, and you're the only one there to experience it.
Yeah.
This is the artifact from that experience.
Yeah, and I'm just glad that I was able to, get that picture. Because I had my phone out. I was, gonna try and get a picture of the birds swarming in the distance, and then they came to me. And I'm oh, all right, I'm taking this picture now.
They knew you were like a Bay Trail dude, like this is the guy we want to interface with. Yeah, they must have known who they were dealing with, Jeff. Now let's go back to the map. You live in Bay Point, so you live near the Curquina Strait. So I imagine you already knew some of those trails. Were there any surprises for you in this part of the bay that's so close to where you live?
So the only trail around there that I'd actually done, because Bay Point is still, a good distance from Martinez, which is where I started. So that orange bit there is the first stretch that I did. No, not the orange, sorry, the pink, the Venetian Martinez Bridge. Here, I'll
you go ahead.
Yeah. So yeah, this bit here is the first, I started right there. That is the closest point to where I live on the Bay Trail right here. Because Bay Point is still a good ways east of there. And the angle on these maps are kind of funny because it's like diagonal. But I had done prior to this some of this stuff over here, like this area over here. I enjoyed that park with Alhambra Creek, but that was about it from this sector that I'd done before I started this. And then I did this, and my first day out, I was like, I'm going to catch a sunset. See if I can catch a sunset over the Curquina Strait, and I didn't. I timed it totally wrong. I went over here too early, and then got there, and then it was too late on the way back. So I didn't get that sunset picture over the strait that I wanted, but I still got some nice pictures out there, and then really nice area, and this bit goes all the way off the map and around, and then comes back and ends right here. So the green one actually ends here, not where it looks like. It just is like a big wide thing that goes off the map.
Yeah, we did a show on the Curquina Strait almost a year ago, I guess. And it just in putting it together, it just occurred to me this is just such a gem. This is I'm not going to say it's my favorite part of the bay because it's hard to pick a favorite part, but it is just so full of beautiful views and kind of scenic, calm places.
I loved Dillon Point. I really loved that area. This red stretch, just from here to there, that bit was just so wonderful, so gorgeous.
Yeah, we've got to go back and do another Curquina Strait show. Also, Port Costa is really, really fun. Although I guess you didn't go into the town of Port Costa. Or it doesn't show you going in there.
I'm not sure. Where is Port Costa?
Port Costa is right here. So it's this little town that goes up to the water. And
I can't see what you're.
Oh,
I think I'm still controlling it.
You may not be able to see it. It's basically sort of across from Dillon Point on the other side.
Down.
To the right of that area.
Okay. I see it now. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, I didn't do that area. I mean, this part kind of touched on it a little bit. But yeah.
And Sarah wants to know, are you missing the Bay Trail now? How do you feel now that this is over?
So a little bit, I am taking it a little easy. One thing that I'm actually now that I'm done with it, I'm enjoying some of the smaller trails around the area. Like I said, I started this new job in the Berkeley Hills, and there's some wonderful trails in the Berkeley Hills. And so now I'm getting to explore some of those little trails around where I work, and, going over to Lake Anza and all of the trails around there. And
Tilden Park.
Yeah. Yeah. it's
Yeah,
nice
because
to-
we're all about public space. You know, we focus on the Bay Trail. We're Bay Trail Confidential, but I'm not drawing the line for me, at least. You know, I think the Ridge Trail is just wonderful, wonderful resource. I know we have people who love the Water Trail. So I'm going to ask you one more question, and then we'll move on to South San Francisco. But like, yeah, what are the places you're going to really, you know, now that you've finished this, what are the places on the bay that you're eager to go back to?
All right. So I think it was here. Eden Point. Was
Oh,
that-
it's it'll be a map 8, I think.
all right. So I was close. But
Yeah, there it is. It's going to
Okay.
be, yeah, Eden Landing.
oh yeah, here it is. This bit. I was disappointed I didn't get to do this. That part was closed off because of some nesting birds that during the time of year I did that. But you know, even without that, it was just so gorgeous. And like being out here, like, you know, just being surrounded, that was the first of the like kind of salt flat type area that I did. And I just like looked around, just like 360 degrees of marshland, and it was just so gorgeous. And you know, I'm like, I want to go back. And you know, I saw that there's like, I would love to go do that in a canoe or a kayak or something, because there's, you know, there's a boat ramp there, and it looks like something that would be really, really nice to do. And I tried to convince a family that I was babysitting for us to do like a canoe trip together, but it did not work.
You must be a really awesome babysitter, Jeff. That's, if only I'd had someone like you when I was a kid. You know, it's such a great idea. And then I just want to point out, like we were talking about Jeff's Bay Trail Cred, you know, when we were starting the show. And I just think it's really, you know, he did both sides of the Alameda Creek Trail, which is really, you know, even though you're just like right across the creek from here, it is like just beautiful to be in both places. So you've really, you know, you've set a wonderful example for all of us. I love the photographs. Jeff, thank you so much. You've been very generous to tell us we can use those photographs in the future. So I think we'll be seeing more of your photographs. Any other thoughts you want to leave us with before we move to topic number 2?
I mean, I was looking, you know, just like glancing at the comments every once in a while. I noticed somebody said starlings. If that's what these birds are, thank you, because I never did find out what kind of birds they are. So, and then
I'm going the
someone
wrong way.
mentioned McEwen. That bit was another one where I had my roommate drop me off and then pick me up, because that was another bit where I didn't feel safe doing that stretch in both directions. So
McEwen is this on the Curquina Strait, right? This is
yeah,
not
that
the right
was
one, though.
in that first sector that I did.
You guys can see I have like this
yeah.
new toy, right? Being
Yeah.
able to jump around like this is really, really useful
Yeah,
for the show.
That purple bit.
McEwen, yeah. Well, Jeff, thank you so much. And just stick with us, because we're going to talk about South San Francisco, which I know is an area you got to visit. You see, oh, what I got to figure out how to get to the end of these. How do I do that? I think you started, oh, that's right. You started, your first was 15 was the end, I think.
11 is where I finished.
Is that right?
Yeah, because the
This is what I
last thing
did.
I did was Treasure Island.
Okay. All right. Yep.
Tom, I saw is on here who was there.
Oh, Tom Lent. Yeah, Tom Lent is,
Yeah.
He's been on the show, and he's going to be on the show again. He and I have some interesting plans, biking.
He helped me for that last stretch, because there's a bit that connects Yerba Buena Island to Treasure Island that I did not feel safe walking. So he drove behind me in my car with my hazards with the hazards on, so that I could walk that and not have to worry about cars coming zooming down.
Yeah, this stretch here, right? The connector is not so good these days.
Yeah, because the construction. That's why I put it off for the last, because I was hoping the construction would be done by that point, but it wasn't.
Thank you, Tom. Tom is, by the way, is the one who recommended that we get you on the show, and really appreciate that. This has been fabulous. But don't go anywhere. We want to talk about South San Francisco, and basically, we wanted to talk about this part of the Bay Trail, not because it's the most spectacular or natural, but because there's some kind of hidden places to visit that most people don't know about. And it is like a really nice area to enjoy the bay. Very close to San Francisco Airport. So it's on map card number 3. Airport's just down here. And I just want you guys to pay attention to these little P's here. These are parking areas. This one is Oyster Point Marina and the whole park there. That's kind of an obvious place to go. But there are some other spots that really, they're right next to the Genentech campus. And it's not really that obvious that it's okay to be there without being part of the Genentech world, but actually it is. You'll see these Bay Trail signs with maps on them. And then look for these blue signs that say public shore parking from BCDC, the Bay Conservation Development. What's the C stand for? Someone help me. BCDC, the important people who oversee the whole Bay thing.
It's actually a really long name for a public agency. It's short for San Francisco Bay Conservation and Development Commission. It's a small, I think it has the distinction of being the smallest state agency in California.
Small but mighty, I think. But you'll see, like, look how the sign is right next to a no parking anytime sign. So it's not obvious that this is taking you to some place that you can park. And if you follow this sign, you'll be in this parking lot. You have to look for this other little sign. And then you end up and you're right on the Bay Trail here. I don't know, there's some, this truck is parked in one of the spots. I think there were some other spots. But this was the one I really love. This is right next to the Genentech, I think like the official building where visitors go to visit Genentech. And then here's another, this is all Genentech stuff here. It's called Point San Bruno. And this area is really great for people with any kind of mobility problem. If you have handicap parking, half the spots are actually handicap spots. And it's so nice because it's right next to the Bay Trail. So it's really easy to get to the Bay Trail. You know, those of us who don't have mobility problems, we can park in these other areas. And if we have to hike a little bit to get to the trail, that's not such a big deal. But this is really nice. Here I am. I took up one of the parking spots with my bike. And this is like a real nice bridge on the Bay Trail. So Ethel, I know you got a chance to visit this area. What were your impressions of the South San Francisco stretches of the Bay Trail?
You know, it was interesting because on one side, it's all industrial with Genentech. And so it's kind of like, oh, ho hum. But on the other side is all the bay, and it's really just gorgeous. And I think the best part was it's so walkable, you know, and there were not a lot of people there. It's paved for the most part, lots and lots of benches to take a break. I think it was one of the longest stretches that I've walked most recently.
Yeah, and you do get into some areas where you'll see shorebirds. You know, again, it's not the most natural. This is not Coyote Hills Regional Park we're talking about. It's not Bear Island. But some of the other areas that are close to San Francisco Airport, you can't park anywhere. I think they're concerned about people that are going to be flying and just trying to take advantage of that. So they make it really hard to park. And so it is kind of cool to know that there are these places. Say you were like running late or running early for a flight and you wanted to kill some time. This would be a pretty good place to do it. It would also, I don't mind telling you, be a good place to pick up some tacos and have like your little lunch by the Bay Trail. It'd be good for that.
And Genentech has incredible security guards. They're driving around all the time on the weekends.
So it's kind of makes you feel safe. I think it's a good place if you're like have a young family and you want to, take the kids biking on the Bay Trail. This would be a very good place for that. It's very, very, very safe for them. Here's what the Genentech campus looks like. And, you'll see like this rocky area here with the bay right next to it. So it's not, again, not the most natural parts. And then I saw this sign. I did want to emphasize this. I do think this is a place where bicyclists should be very respectful. They should be respectful of pedestrians everywhere, but this would be a place where, the trail isn't that wide. And if you're going to go by people, go slow. That's what I would ask you to do. Here's a picture I took. Here's some, if you go at low tide, you will see a lot of shorebird activity, which was was really fun. Kind of place you see herons, egrets. So let me ask Jeff, what were your thoughts of this section of the Bay Trail?
I liked it. I think one of my pictures is of that same bridge. I think, when I'm looking one direction, there's is this that section?
Yeah, we're going back to your stuff and let's see if we can find, I don't know if I put that picture in or not. I guess I didn't. Sorry, Jeff.
Okay. Well, so, you look one direction and, you see the water, the bay, kind of the stereotypical picturesque stuff. And you look the other direction and you've got, these buildings, the Genentech and some of it, looks pretty industrial and, not the type of thing that you would think of. But then I got this, I was over there and then, you to see the sun shining through the clouds and even there, it's over the water, and surrounded by this, these buildings, but there was just this little bit of water past the bridge and the sun shining through the clouds. And it was I got to get that picture, Most of my pictures, I've been focusing away from the buildings, but, sometimes it just something captures you. And that was really nice.
It's funny. I was on a train today and I went through that area and I went by the building that you have a picture of, that really long building. I see Sherry has a question about where the highly accessible parking lot is. So it's this thing right here. I will put this on my website. And look at this little road. This little road, you're in the Genentech campus, and everything is going to tell in your mind, you're going to be oh, I am not supposed to be here. But actually you are allowed to be there. And I don't think at this little intersection, there's even one of those little blue signs. So you just kind of have to know about this. But if you put in Bay Trail or you put in just Point San Bruno in Google, it will give you directions to get to this place. I'm going to put it on the website, very explicit directions to get to this area, because I would love to hear from people, especially someone with a mobility challenge. Let me know how it goes, because I'm highly recommending this. And I just think you're going to really have a good experience. And you will, because of all those handicap spots, you're not going to have a problem finding a spot if you have a handicap placard.
And there's so many benches along that trail. I mean,
there's one right here.
Yeah, it's real easy to walk and then rest.
There is a taco truck not far from there. It will be in my compendium of taquerias and taco trucks. Oh, and I did want to mention that there is a ferry terminal at Oyster Point that goes from Jack London Square, and I took it. It was a very foggy day, as you can see, but it's pretty nice way to get there. I believe it's really targeted at people working for Genentech and other nearby businesses, but it is something. It'd be nice to take advantage of it. I think it's only weekdays, so it would be for my fellow retirees to take advantage of recreationally. But really nice. Not very many people on the ferry, which was, in times of COVID, kind of a good thing. So here are our takeaways. Oh, let's see. I think this is wrong. This is, I should have, this is wrong. This is from last time. These are not the South San Francisco takeaways. The takeaways are going to be good place for parking. And I'll update this on the website. That's a little embarrassing. This is last month's takeaways. But just like a good place to visit the Bay if you are like running early for the airport, or you want to take the kids for a bike ride, or you want just some kind of for people with mobility issues. I think this would be ideal.
You know, the other thing, Rodney, I went a couple of times. I went during the weekend, then I also went on a Saturday, and I usually don't go out on a Saturday because I think I'm going to run into so many people, and it was not crowded at all. So I'm not sure that it's a really well-known place for walking. So it's a good weekend destination as well.
Yeah, I'm actually really glad that you guys are bringing up South San Francisco. I think it's partly because it's hidden behind all these big business development buildings, and the streets are very windy. They're not grid systems, so people feel intimidated. They might get lost. I've found over time that this is an area of the Bay Trail that doesn't get as much love as it deserves. So I hope this inspires people to go out there and check it out. It's not going to be as crowded on weekends as some of the other more popular stretches like San Francisco or even along the Richmond waterfront.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I see in chat, someone was asking about like the parking areas. So just pay attention to these Ps when you see them on the Bay Trail maps, because those are real places where the parking is available for the public. You just have to find them. Any last thoughts on South San Francisco?
Do it.
Yeah, check it out. I mean, we're Bay Trail completists. We're going to go everywhere, but we do feel like all the areas have value. And here's another area, our Serena selection. Serena always picks a place every month. So Jacqueline and Square here's my wide angle shot, or my, what do you call it? Panoramic shot of Jacqueline and Square. Also saw some great street performers in that area. So fun place to check out. Now, Serena generously always sends a set of Bay Trail map cards to the winner of our contest, but we didn't get any entries in our contest this month. So we're going to give the Bay Trail map cards to, drum roll, Jeff, for all the great photographs. You really deserve to win, to have these, Jeff. I think you're going to really enjoy them. You're not going to have to print out the cards anymore. You're going to have a set of really nice map cards to enjoy.
I look forward to seeing them.
Yeah, and there's Serena in chat congratulating you. So we'll get her your address, and those will be in the mail to you. I think you'll really enjoy them. I love mine. And if you want to buy them, you can find you can get them from the Oakland Museum, I believe, and some San Francisco retailers. I don't know if they're in the Ferry building these days or not. I think sometimes they're available in the Ferry building. So our photo contests, we're gonna resume the photo contest. I'm not gonna make you guys go to Taqueria's anymore. I'm gonna do that all myself. We'll see what my cardiologist has to say about that. But we're Jeff, this was your inspiration. We're gonna tie the photo contest to regions of the Bay, and we're gonna just start building out a map that connects people to lots of pictures. We're gonna start with yours. And so we're going to ask people for April to choose places on Bay Trail maps 1 through 4. So that would be from the Golden Gate Bridge going south to Foster City. And then in the subsequent months, we're going to pick other regions kind of going around the Bay. And it's going to help us kind of come up with a great set of photographs of wonderful places on the Bay Trail all over the Bay area.
Right,
So
and
do
we're
that.
still encourage people to get out and explore a little too.
Yeah, follow in Jeff's footsteps, since you've been everywhere. We usually on this slide we usually have a list of photographers who we give credit to, but Jeff, it goes all to you this month because of these great photographs you took. So thank you, congratulations, bravo. What more can we say? And our next show, I'm already working on our next show. It's going to be about historic Bay Trail sites in Bayview Hunters Point. And then we may be talking about Lady Bayview, which is something that's being worked on for the India Basin Park. And here are some of the spots that I'm researching for this. A lot of really interesting places. Hunters Point Naval Shipyard is actually the largest artist community in the United States. And they're going to be having open studios at the end of April. So that's kind of a fitting time. And hopefully we're going to get some people from this community, Hunters Point, Bayview, telling us about it. So some really cool stuff to experience there. And with that, I think we will play our Happy Trails theme by Jason Meyer. So hit it, Jason.
Happy trails to you until we meet again. Happy trails to you. Keep smiling until then. Who cares about the clouds if we're together? Just sing a song and bring the sunny weather. Happy trails to you until we meet again. Until we meet again.
And special thanks to Jeff. You've been a great guest on the program. Thanks to Lee and Ethel for being my co-hosts. Always want to thank my wife, Sarah, who's always very supportive of all the time I put into this show. The beginning of the program slideshow had music by Studi Andina, great Peruvian ensemble. But I think we're going to get some new music starting next month. So stay tuned for that. And now it is time I'm going to let you guys unmute. And let's see, you guys should be able to unmute now. And I always encourage people to raise hands. I think, Lee, you said you may need to leave. So we'll say goodbye to Lee. Thank you, Lee.
I do. Thank you, everyone. Thanks for joining tonight.
But yeah, does anybody want to ask Jeff a question or make a statement or go ahead, Mark.
Hi there. Hey, this was a fantastic presentation, Jeff. Congratulations on that accomplishment. Rodney, going back to something you mentioned earlier on about the toll to enter Treasure Island. Do you know, will that apply to like people bicycling onto the island? And is that possible?
I believe it's cars only. So it's not bicycle, and you can bike to the island. It is cars only. I've heard some talk about concern, like people whose kids might be playing sports on the island. It might hit them, might impact them, more. There had been, I think, at some point there was the developer of the housing on the island was supposed to pay for the cost of the ferry or underwrite it or something, and there wasn't enough money from that, and that's why they're doing this. So that's why there is some controversy about it. There's opposition to it from some quarters.
Okay,
but you can bike to the island.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Good question. Other questions, or do you want Jeff to talk about your favorite part of the Bay Trail? Where's Paco? We always want to hear from Paco. What did you think, Paco? Does this show get your stamp of approval?
Yes, I'm actually so engaged about the South San Francisco Bay Area Trail too. Like there's apparently an office beside that, like the park too.
Yeah, there are a lot of offices there. It's kind of, I was hoping to get someone from Genentech to ask them about what it's like to work right next to the Bay Trail.
Wow, can you imagine?
That would be fun. I actually, Ethel, you and I both worked right next to the Bay Trail because we used to work for the San Francisco Giants back in the days when there was no labor unrest and there was actually baseball. Say that again, Paco?
Congrats to Jeff also.
Yes, congrats to Jeff. What a great accomplishment. And we're just so lucky that he was able to take all these wonderful photographs. Other thoughts, I'm going to stop sharing the slides for a moment. Anyone else want to say anything about, ask Jeff a question or make a statement?
Missed Richie's show last Monday.
I
didn't
did miss
Rod.
Richie Unterberger. Paco and I are friends with a noted rock historian, Richie Unterberger, who's amazing, and he does programs on rock history for the Community Living Campaign every Monday, every other Monday. Always fun. So yeah, I'm sorry I missed that. I was traveling, and I actually went to Portland and did some Jeff, you'll appreciate this. Did some walking along the Willamette River, because that's where their great public space is. And then I went to Grants Pass and walked along the Rogue River. And what you find is when there's bodies of water, there's usually really nice public space along it. So I'm a Bay Trail guy first and foremost, but you can go to other places and really experience some of the same thing.
Yeah, I went to visit family who live in Vegas recently, and I was walking along a trail there, and I posted a picture from the trail on Facebook, and my roommate is like, if you ever wonder where Jeff is, just look for a trail.
You always want to be walking somewhere when you visit a place.
Yeah.
I'm getting together with a guy on Friday he's written a book called For the Love of Cities. He like about people loving the places that they live. And I always think like maybe the best way to love a city is to walk a city or bike it or kayak it or do something other than experience it in a car. I'm going to run that idea by him. He may be a guest on this show. I'm hoping to talk him into being a guest on this show sometime soon. Well, I guess I will wrap it up. I just want to thank you guys. Thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you, Jeff, again. Say what, Paco?
We had a great time in Portland. That's where my cousin lives now.
I did. It's a wonderful city. I have nothing but good things to say about it. So Ethel, thanks for helping me once again.
My pleasure.
And we will see you guys in a month talking about Bayview Hunters Point. And in the meantime, happy trails until we meet again. See you guys.
Night.
Good night.
Bye.